Hello everyone and welcome to another video. This time I wanted to do something different. So instead of a review of Darksiders 3, I will try to explain why it doesn't merit being so chastised by a big amount of the gaming community. To start off this rant, I should say how disappointed I was at first when I started up the game and noticed that it's nothing like the previous games. Gone are the random weapon drops that made the grind through the previous game at least a bit rewarding. Gone is most of the RPG system, and with it the other things that gave the second game more depth besides just being a hack and slasher, which made matters worse considering it was a full-priced €60 game. I will probably shoot my Darksiders 3 defense in the foot by saying that it isn't worth that much, which is quite sad when you see games like Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice plus its soundtrack being sold for €32. However, I'm here to tell you why Darksiders 3 might be worth it after all. The thing that kept me going through this game was mostly its characters that actually had quite fun chemistry with each other. Fury herself really doesn't hold up to her namesake, besides some outbursts here and there, and her acting like a spoiled teenager when talking to the three flaming skulls called the Charred Council. Fury at times does what many other characters tell her to do, even going so far as saving humans around the world, albeit for her own ends being promised upgrades by the blacksmith if she does it. Oh, and before I forget, I wanted to quote my favorite part when she literally says, and I'm not even joking here, "It smells like death in here. Trust me, we shared a room 1000 years ago." What? What? I couldn't imagine anything else besides this. On the other hand, my favorite interactions are between her and her follower, the Watcher, who ironically talks a lot besides just watching, and in this game, to my disappointment, wasn't voiced by Mark Hamill, but the voice of Frida Wolf grew on me the more I played. Many other notable characters like Volgrim play off of Fury quite well, and they have many fun banters together, along with the antagonists of this game, the 7 Deadly Sins, which all have distinct personalities, my favorite being Greed, not just because of his personality, but because of the area that he is encountered in, which actually plays a part in the whole boss fight. Being the second boss, he wasn't that hard to beat, and I did it actually on my first try. As with most of the game, the main focus is on time dodging and retaliating when there is an opening, which leads me to the main part of this video, the gameplay. I saw many people comparing this game to Dark Souls, and I won't deny the similarities. However, just saying that it's like Dark Souls is a detriment to both games. The main difference is the absence of the stamina meter in Darksiders, which should be the end of this discussion about similarities. The stamina meter in Dark Souls is, in my opinion, the main part of the combat, always watching for how much stamina I have, using different builds to better its management, mastering it being the main part of the overall game altogether, with learning every mob's attack pattern, and this is just a short version of why it's important. Darksiders 3 not having it makes the game quite distinct in my opinion. It would be like saying that any game with a dodge mechanic and bad camera angles is a Darksiders-like game, which would include almost all action-adventure games like Zelda, of which the latest one even has a stamina bar. However, I won't deny the similarities, like collecting souls, and yes, I know they were always called souls in Darksiders, which drop upon death and have to be picked up again and disappear if you die without picking them up first. But besides that, the game might as well be called a Bayonetta game, because it has a main character that is female, fights demons and angels, and uses a whip. Which brings me to the weapons of the game. There are 6 of them overall, and they can be either upgraded with enchantments or leveled up with adamantine that flatly increases their damage, which is another thing that reminds me of Dark Souls, since it works basically the same way like titanite materials in it do. On the other hand, the enchantments give different upgrades like damage bonuses, healing on hit and so on, but even so, it doesn't really replace the stats and all the weapons that the previous game had. I say this mostly because I kind of expect a cannon or gun, but it seems they will give it to Strife if they even make the 4th game, which I hope they will. Darksiders 3 has its flaws, and it does seem to be much smaller in scope compared to the previous one, which is in my opinion understandable considering that it is a wonder that it even came out, with its previous studio being closed down a few years ago and the rights being auctioned off to the highest bidder. I think it could have been much worse. Darksiders 3 is a fun action game. It has its problems, but they are overshadowed by the good things. At one point, I might be angry because I had the sheer audacity to attack more than one mob at a time and was punished for it by having to walk all the way back from the last checkpoint. But after that, I ran into a huge puzzle room that mellowed me out a bit. Together with a boss fight here and there that just made me push on even harder, for which I am glad. I played a lot of it, and after all the time spent, I must say that I think it's a fun game that maybe was a bit overhyped at the start, but not as bad as people say it is. So, to wrap this all up, I might not think that Darksiders 3 is worth the full price of €60, but I am sure as heck going to recommend it to anyone when it's on a proper sale. It's a fun hack and slash game, dragged down a bit by the combat, but if rebalanced, it can be really good. And of course, if you came this far, thank you so much for watching, and do subscribe or at least leave a like to help others find this video. And as always, goodbye and thanks for listening.